through the years. So happy to see so many of you here. Okay, so 2020. I remember in April, my friend and I were chatting about traveling to Eastern Europe later this year when COVID blows over. Um, and okay, yes, I miss the one-time noodles in the cafe lounge and the endless pours of bubbly. Um, but really what I miss is also that time to do nothing but watch mindless action movies while we're flying. So perhaps like some of you, that's been the silver lining in this pandemic, time and perspective. And in doing a lot of reflecting, I've been thinking about what I want to spend my time doing. What's my passion? What's my North Star? And that realization about time and movies really touches upon that. I love storytelling and I love how the performing and visual arts bring such diverse stories to our lives, opening our minds and our hearts. So there's this comment that I read back in March that really stuck with me that I will share with you. Let's see. So I love how the world has decided that we need the arts right now to survive. Free opera, free concerts, free books, free museum exhibits, all online. Maybe think about that the next time someone proposes slashing funding for the arts. And I've been thinking about how can I support the arts during these challenging times? And you know, when you put something out in the universe and wow, you get an answer, I got a Natasha. So Natasha and I have been friends since our freshman year at UCLA when I was immediately taken with her energy and enthusiasm, which continues today as she mentions that the nonprofit she started was transitioning to the online space during the pandemic. You'll get a chance to meet this amazing woman later in our program and hear more about this incredible organization. But what I love the most about Chai for Charity is how they inspire people to support nonprofits in creative ways by offering diverse, accessible options, which you'll hear more about later. I just think that's super cool. So when Natasha shared that they were hosting fundraisers online now, I was fully energized. No lie, I could not sleep the night before our initial chat about this because I was so excited about this program. So here we are now, and I'm thrilled to feature 3 performing arts nonprofits that I care deeply about. In addition to Artists at Play today, we'll be highlighting Asian Pacific American Friends of the Theater on Friday, December 4th, and East West Players on Saturday, December 12th. We want these programs to be highly interactive and engaging, so please feel free to type your thoughts and questions in the chat box. Oh, and on that note, I'd love to take a quick photo to commemorate this evening. So if you feel comfortable, please turn on your camera and give me one of your big, beautiful smiles as I take a group photo. All right. So ready? One, oh, hold on a second. 1, 2, 3. One more, 1, 2, 3. Fabulous, thank you so much. Okay, so I think the first production of Artists at Play that I attended was Ching Chong Chinaman. And I remember being blown away by this riveting story about race and identity. And since then, I love that Artists at Play continues to bring powerful, underrepresented stories and communities to the stage. So thank you, Artists at Play, for the work that you do. And thank you for joining us today to share your story. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce a fellow Bruin, Stephanie Lau from Artists at Play.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Chai for Charity and Monica for having us here today. We're gonna go around and introduce the producers of Artists at Play. My name is Stephanie Lau, and I'm a co-founder and co-producing artistic leader, and my pronouns are she, her. Marie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Marie Ranvelez. I'm one of the co-founders and co-producing artistic leaders of Artists at Play, and I go by she, her pronouns. Julia?
Hi, I'm Julia, one of the founding members and producing artistic leaders of Artists at Play. My pronouns are she, her. Nicholas.
Hi, I'm Nicholas, producer, he, him. Hello, Catherine.
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine. I'm a producing associate with Artists at Play. My pronouns are she, her.
To give a little bit of background and to introduce some of the work that Artists at Play does, we have a brief anniversary retrospective video that we produced a few years ago, and Natasha is going to show that right now.
Oh, Natasha, I think we need to share the sound.
Hi, we're Artists at Play. Hi, we're Artists at Play. Hi, we're Artists at Play. Tell us about Artists at Play and why you love them so much.
I love what you guys do, what Artists at Play does. We don't see ourselves in the media, but in the theater we can. There is something that distinguishes you and that distinguishes your experience that's so distinctly Asian American, and when we get to experience that, and when we see coming home, and it's
Theater is known for pushing. It's a great addition to this theater world.
My experience with artists is tremendously amazing. Realize that they are serious about the work that they're putting on.
one of the things I admire about Artists at Play is they do theater for and by Asian Americans, but of course for all of the audiences across the board.
Over the years, I've gone to many opening nights with Artists at Play, and I'm always really amazed at how they pay such close attention to detail. And there's always just this feeling of family and celebration.
Working with Artists at Play has been one of their kick-ass, am I allowed to say that? Kick-butt production team.
It's a great company, first of all, that people need to know about. I mean, Artists at Play, picking good material and then picking good actors and collaborators and artists. I think people should support this company, but also just support, great live theater.
I saw Edith can shoot things and hit them, and when I got to be in Cowboy vs. Samurai, and that's when I knew how passionate, how hardworking, and how talented everyone at this theater company is.
They're able to take such varying different kinds of material and just really just knock it out of the park every time.
Their mission is so wonderful and so needed to showcase the diversity of the Asian American, voice in theater. They're just everything you would want in a production company.
I honestly can't believe sometimes that we've made it this far.
We started in 2011, and we've had a main stage production in the fall every year. Since then, we've expanded our programming to include a springtime reading series, and we also have a special summer event.
When Artists at Play started, the main intention for us existing is to do work that is being done elsewhere, Asian American plays that were not being done in Los Angeles.
These are fantastic plays, they're fantastic playwrights, and they're fantastic stories that we feel like people need to hear.
It's been very exciting and important. It's been very exciting. We're a lot working with these wonderful group of people.
One thing that I always joke about at the end of every production is, we made it and we're still friends.
We made it. It's been really fun to go through this growth since our first production of Huge House and
It's amazing how all the trials and tribulations of 5 years have really brought us together stronger as friends, but also as producing partners. We work together amazingly well.
I think where I was 4 years ago, theater was just theater. Being able to work with Artists at Play and knowing what the mission is, I've started to learn and realize that it's not just about theater, but it's about the people and telling our stories and multiple stories and making sure we reflect the world the way it is.
To now have developed something that people can label as a sensibility or a voice, to have been able to kind of cultivate that over the course of 5 years That's pretty neat.
We're really looking at a lot of different elements of what Los Angeles theater can look like, and we are working more towards reaching that goal for ourselves.
We're doing important work, we're creating opportunities, and I think that's why you should support Artists at Play.
Hi, I'm Anthony Shaker, and I wrote In Love and Warcraft. Hi, I'm Alejandra Cisneros, and I will be directing In Love and Warcraft. Hi, nice to meet you.
Sorry. Already. That's all right. Thank you, Natasha. And thank you so much, Monica, for this opportunity and for all the kind words that you just talked about with Artists at Play. So hello, if you missed it earlier, I'm Marie Renvelez. I'm one of the co-founders and co-producing artistic leaders of Artists at Play. And for those of you who are new to us, Artists at Play is a Los Angeles-based theater producing collective dedicated to programming that explores the Asian American experience. We are very excited to have this opportunity to share what we do with people from lots of different places. And at Artists at Play, we would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the Indigenous land that we share. So part of our mission is to make the invisible visible. Additionally, we believe that it's also not the responsibility for those who have been made invisible to remind us that they are still here. So Artists at Play acknowledges that the land on which we are based, Los Angeles, is the unceded land of the Gabrielino Tongva people. This city was founded on the exclusions and erasures of many Indigenous people, and we honor them, past, present, and future. We also acknowledge that the United States would not exist without the free enslaved labor of Black people. We honor the legacy of the African diaspora and Black culture, knowledge, and skills stolen due to violence and white supremacy. We share these acknowledgements to raise the awareness about the histories that are too often erased or forgotten, to pay respect to the original caretakers of this land, and to recognize our place in this history. So please join us as we continue to actively educate ourselves to live anti-racist lives and to work towards a more just society. And so I'll hand this off to Julia, who will talk about what Artists at Play has been doing this year.
Thank you, Marie. That was a fun trip down memory lane. So that was a video that we made at our 5-year mark. And now this was 2020 was supposed to be our 10th season, and we had all these exciting things planned, and then we all know how that went. So as challenging as this year has been, it's definitely pushed us in ways. We've had to kind of figure out how to exist in an industry, the world of theater, that is kind of built upon in-person collaboration and those interpersonal connections. So we've definitely had to make some readjustments in this time, but one of the beautiful silver linings that we've discovered is artistic collaborations that span the country and being able to work with writers and actors from everywhere beyond the greater Los Angeles area. And though our focus will always be to serve and highlight theater artists in Los Angeles, it's been really wonderful to be able to connect with people that we may not have under normal circumstances. And what's been really great too is to discover new partnerships with organizations that go beyond theater. So we've been fortunate enough to also work with various cultural groups. Let's see here, museums. Museums are kind of like our thing right now. Libraries. And so it's been very lovely to connect with these people who are not from the theater community, but to be able to bring theater to them, to their patrons, to their audiences. And we know that, from the very beginning, Artists at Play being a much smaller theater company, being a smaller organization, We know the importance of partnering with like-minded entities, you know, in order to share resources and tap into each other's audiences, as well as, you know, just figure out how to create art and how to share art in different ways, in different platforms, now the virtual platform, in different contexts. And yeah, it's been beautiful to see these new partnerships come about, but we're always thinking about how to properly compensate those individuals who choose to share their time and talents with us. Again, being a small organization, I think everyone who's worked with us can attest to the fact that we treat our people with the utmost respect and professionalism, whatever to supplement the lack of, you know, funds we can actually provide them. We've always been really good about providing yummy snacks and like really good food and like full-on meals when it's long days at the theater space. But unfortunately, that's not something we can do so much. But yeah, we're still looking for ways, looking for support so that we can do right by the people who choose to work with us, until we can get to the other side of all this. So moving on to, I believe, Nicholas.
Hello. So as you saw in the video, we had a lot of like footage of like our productions. And as Julia said in the video, we do like one huge main stage production every year in the fall. This year, again, like ours had to be canceled, but it was like really cool. Hopefully we'll get to do it soon. But the interesting thing about the play we're going to do this year, which is called Not Another True Story, which would have been a world premiere never seen before anywhere else, is that that play has been developed with Artists at Play from almost the beginning of its life. And what that means is, what you didn't see in the video is that we do new play development, which is we work with playwrights to develop their plays into full productions like we would have done this fall. So what that looks like is just getting actors around a table, reading the play out loud for the first time and having the writer just hear their words come to life. And, you know, through that, they learn things like, oh, that's not funny. Like, oh, that sucks, you know, or like, oh, I'm amazing. It's fine. And that's a large part of what we do, is really investing in the work, but also the people who are creating the work, you know, because like Julia said, we are a smaller theater company. We kind of sometimes think of ourselves as like a great like stepping stone to these playwrights, like being amazing on larger stages, which has happened pretty much with a lot of our writers. You know, we've had a writer who just had a movie on Amazon. We have many of our writers who write for TV now or work off Broadway or even like Broadway capacities. What's really important for us is investing in those writers and giving them the tools and kind of like resume padding to like kind of set them off and like take over the world, which is really fun. And like I said before, we read these plays in the beginning and then we have a reading series, which I think Julia talked about in the video, where you get to hear the play out loud as an audience member, and then we get audience feedback, and then the play gets better and they work on it. And then we bring it onto stage for a full world premiere production. When we've done that, I think 2 times before, this would have been our 3rd. So it's nice to have a like big, long journey. This year, we actually, part of our new play development, because we couldn't do a reading series in person, we turned it into a podcast. So Catherine will talk about it a little bit more later, but our season turned into a podcast season and you can listen to it, but we had a play reading via podcast, which was turned almost into like a radio drama. So there's like a soundscape, you know, actors like acting. It's really cool. So we're developing that more as we move forward in like a COVID era of how can we develop plays. And like Julia said, we're working with people across the country who we would have never been able to work with before just because of Zoom. So that's been fun. So yeah, we're looking ahead to see how we can work with more people, how we can invest in more writers. And one huge thing that's a huge step for us is that we are looking to start a commissioning project, which means we would pay writers to write a play for us. And that's just another way of supporting the writer because a lot of writers write for free and nothing ever happens. So right now we are trying to find underwriters or just build more funds in order to create a commission for a new writer to write a play, because they're suffering too, not suffering, or they're hard up on work too. But yeah, speaking of the podcast, Catherine will tell you more about that.
Hi, everyone. So like Liz said, because of COVID-19, we have been unable to produce our usual slate of in-person events, readings and shows. And so at the beginning of the year, we thought for a long time about how we could adapt in a way that wouldn't just be a temporary solution. And so we came naturally to the idea of a podcast, but we wanted to make sure that we could integrate it permanently into our programming, even after we return back to in-person events, as something that could be complementary to our usual productions. So the idea is that we would provide social context for the stories that we eventually choose to tell on stage, providing artistic insight into what goes on behind the scenes, just something overall that could enrich the experience of our patrons. And so this year we've produced a season of 4 episodes that range from a reunion with the cast of our first production, Ching Chong Chinaman, which Monica mentioned at the beginning, to panel conversations with artists and academics about plays that we've produced and their historical and political significance, and then to the reading that Nicholas mentioned, a reading of emerging writer Rosie Narasaki's new play called Unrivaled, which we've taken the care to craft into something that lives between a reading and a full-fledged audio drama. And that was done as part of our new play development. So we've put a lot of effort this year into producing episodes that are as fully developed as any of our in-person events would be, because for us, this is a continuation and an expansion of our usual work, not a compromise. And so our podcast has allowed us to continue providing theatrical programming for our audiences while continuing our work developing new plays and fostering emerging playwrights, while collaborating with artists in our community who have all been hit hard by the crisis. And so no matter what happens in this coming year, our podcast is here to stay as its own branch of what we do. And that's very, very exciting for us. However, producing a podcast is very different from producing for the stage. It requires a new set of skills and a different set of equipment. So we've adapted as best as we could, but we are originally a theater company, not a podcasting company. And so there are inevitably some gaps to fill. So now as we buckle in for the long haul and prepare for our 2021 season, we do want to be able to provide a higher quality level of quality for our audiences, as well as for the artists and the writers whose work we're presenting in podcast form. And so we'd really welcome any help at all in upgrading the production value of our podcast, anything from better microphones so we can ensure equal levels of sound quality between our hosts, our panelists, and our artists who are all recording in their own spaces, to Ethernet cables for a more stable recording connection because we are quite often recording over Zoom. And so overall, this is new territory for us, but it is becoming the bulk of our work while we're unable to produce in-person events. And now I'm going to hand it off to Stephanie, who's going to talk about another growing aspect of our work this year.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie again, and I'm the parent of 2 school-aged children. And so seeing them go through public school has shown me that often students of color do not get to see themselves represented in the stories and history that they learned. And so with that, we've been increasingly interested in seeing how theater can be used as a way to educate and engage students beyond the classroom. So earlier this year, we were set to have our first ever Theater for Young Audiences tour, which would go to middle schools, community centers, and public libraries. It was scheduled for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month in 2020. But again, we know how all that went. So unfortunately, our first tour was canceled, but we've been able to reimagine what it could mean for an online tour. So in spring 2020, Artists at Play will be presenting Alos, the story of Carlos Bulasan by Giovanni Ortega and directed by Fran De Leon. So Carlos Bulasan was a Filipino-American. He left the Philippines for Seattle in search of the American dream. He was a writer and union organizer, and the play is based on his semi-autobiographical novel, America is in the Heart. He advocated for the rights of migrant workers and became the voice of the Filipino-American immigrant experience. Alos depicts his struggles in America, playing testament to the courage and spirit in a country that rejected him, but that he came to love and call home. And presenting a play like this to middle schools and libraries and community organizations is our opportunity to use the arts to show students of color that their history is American history. And part of the podcast was an exploration, one of the episodes was an exploration of this play, Alos, the man, Carlos Bulasan, and his artistic impact in the Filipino-American community. So we hope that all of this information, we know that we've just shared a lot of information about Artists at Play. So we hope that you can take some time to learn more about us. We'll be around later on if you want to ask us any more questions about the work that we do. Listen to our podcast. It's a great introduction to who we are as an organization. And if you know of a teacher or a school or a library that could be interested in a 40-minute play designed for middle school students, please let us know. We'd love to share our work, not just in Los Angeles, but across the country. And as mentioned, we do have a wish list wall that was curated and with support from Natasha and Chai for Charity. So we hope that you can take a moment to look at some of the needs that Artists at Play has. So thank you very much to Chai for Charity and Monica for having us here today. Happy birthday, Monica. We're so honored that you chose to include us in your birthday celebration. And thank you everyone for taking the time to learn and listen about Artists at Play.
Thanks so much, Stephanie and the Artists at Play team. I'm obsessed. Also, we want you to come to Boulder. My name is Natasha Wright, and I am the founder and executive director of Chai for Charity. I've known Monica, as she mentioned, since freshman year of college, and I'm obsessed with Monica, and you guys, and she always has the coolest friends. So I'm very excited to meet all of you. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Chai for Charity and about how we'll donate tonight. So as I mentioned, I'm the executive director and founder. We created, Chai for Charity's mission is to inspire people to give in creative ways, because about 9 years ago, I was looking to invest in local nonprofit efforts, and I did a ton of research and found some nonprofits that I was really excited about. I wanted to share the information with my girlfriends, so I got them all together and asked them and told them about the work that I had done, and we decided to run Chai for Charity events in 6 cities across North America. And many of those girlfriends are on this call right now, actually, so you'll get a chance to meet with them. So we ran events across North America and raised $6,000 for survivors of domestic violence. We started something that was beautiful and magical and electric, and we were going to do a thing. And then 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant with my first son, and I've essentially been pregnant for 9 years. I've got 3 children under 9, and every year I'd go to my husband and say, this is the year that we're going to relaunch Chai for Charity. I'm going to rebuy the domain, and then we'd get pregnant, or I'd be nursing a small child. So we put Chai for Charity on hold for a number of years. In that time, I moved from California to Colorado, and we ran the second Chai for Charity about 7 years later in my backyard in Colorado. And again, it was electric, and we were doing something magical. And we became established as a 501c3 2 years ago this January. And essentially what we do is we work with hosts to do what we did back then. We work with hosts to identify the 3 causes that they're really passionate about, and we gather their community to tell them about the causes that our hosts are passionate about. And so the model still works, and we have the honor of working with Monica and the 3 nonprofits that she wants to highlight for you during this version of Chai for Charity. So what we do is we inspire people to give in creative ways, and we're hoping to create a giving model that's as inclusive as possible of people of different socioeconomic backgrounds and generations. Because 20-year-old me
had lots of time, but no talent. And 40-year-old me has no time and some talent. And 60-year-old me will have a different version of those things. And so what you'll do tonight is we will invite you to give in 4 categories: money, goods, time, and talent. 4 categories. And I'll just put this in here and show you what we mean by that. So we work with nonprofits to identify the needs that they have in goods, time, and talent. Of course, we also accept your money. And what you do during and after this event is actually go onto our wish list wall, which is bit.ly/chai-wish list. And I'll show it to you. And it's actually, I don't think we'll have time to show it to you. So I trust that you will go there after this event and look at the wish list. And we ask you to put your email address on as a commitment to anything on the wish list that you think that you can give to Artists at Play. We also take your money by PayPal, and we can also take checks and possibly a bank transfer. Email me if you'd like to do it a different way and we'll figure it out. But essentially the way that we do it is that we collect money donations, and then we offer, and then you get a chance to allocate your donation across the 3 nonprofits that you're going to hear about during Monica's Happy Hour series. And at that point, we collect the money and hand it over to each of the nonprofits. 100% of your donations goes directly to nonprofits. I'll talk more about that later. Thanks so much. And I'm going to hand it back over. Oh, one last thing. Try for Charity is a small nonprofit. We're volunteer run, and Laura Stewart is on the call with me. There are 3 volunteers that run Try for Charity, and I just want to give them a huge, huge thank you for the work that they do to make all of this possible. Thank you, Monica.
All right. Thank you so much, Natasha, Stephanie, Julia, Marie, Nicholas, and Catherine. Your things that you shared about what your groups are doing is just incredibly inspiring. And in following with the theme of arts and creativity, that'll lead us to the next portion of our program, one of my favorite games, which some of you may know, Photo Scavenger Hunt. So I will put a link into the chat. And in honor of my 21st, I've put together a list of 21 items. And so I'll put you into breakout rooms, and you and your teammates will have 10 minutes to find and take photos of as many items as you can. So I'll drop the link in now. But before I put you into breakout rooms, just a few notes. So you can take photos with either your camera, your phone, or your screenshot, whatever you're comfortable with. Each photo must have at least 1 team member in it, so I'll know which team it's from. Text or email me your photos with the corresponding category, like whether it's a book or cup, by the end of tomorrow. Full disclosure, brownie points will be given out for creativity, flattery, and donations made to any of the charities highlighted in this birthday series. That being said, you don't have to play. If you'd rather just chat and talk story, as we say in Hawaii, you can do so. But there will be prizes for the winning team.